I got into the town of Asher late in the day, pulled up to my motel, the Gateway Inn Motel. A very nice surprise was that this motel turned out to be the closest one to the park entrance in this area. You could just see the park entrance above those cars. In fact, the park entrance was so close that you could walk to it, which I did to get this shot. I went to bed that night dreaming of sunny skies and beautiful scenery. But somehow, the message of my dreams to Mother Nature got translated all wrong or something, because the next morning, driving to the sunrise area of Mount Rainier, it was so foggy I wouldn't be able to see the big mountain if it stood in front of me and slapped me in the face. I've got to admit, my heart was sinking pretty low. It was so foggy, I kept waiting to hear a foghorn sounding. And then, like magic, I got to the top of the sunrise area and the clouds disappeared to a clear, sunny sky. Then I could see the massive hunk of rock called Mount Rainier, standing at 14,411 feet above sea level. The sunrise area sign shows an elevation of 6,400 feet, the highest point in the park you can get to by car. Although not extremely high, you still might feel some effects at that elevation. There's a Sunrise Visitor Center with Mount Rainier in the background. I briefly went in there and got some information on the trails in the area. Inside the Visitor Center was this great quote by John Muir. "Out of the forest at last there stood the mountain, fully unveiled, awful in bulk and majesty." So poetic and so much better than what I would have said. I decided to go on the Silver Forest Trail first. Only 1.6 miles round trip and an easy 150-foot elevation gain. Right up my alley. Easy. There are some hikers ahead of me on the trail, and of course, Mount Rainier. That thing is just so massive, you just can't ignore it. Here's a picture of a little scenic turnout on the trail. One nice thing was, the wildflowers were out in bloom. They were everywhere. Well, it came to a junction in the road. Let's see, I can either go this way or I can go that way. Sweet baby Jesus standing in a rocking chair. Well, I'll do the only thing I know how to do. I ran a ways until the altitude told me that was far enough. And then it was back to walking on the trail and enjoying the views. Here are some fun facts on Mount Rainier. It became the United States' 5th national park in 1899. It's 14,410 feet tall. It's an active volcano that last erupted about 1,000 years ago. And there are 28 major glaciers on it. Here I am, walking on the trail. The scenery was so beautiful that it made me forget that I was no longer a young man, but just an old fart. Next up, I decided to walk the Sourdough Ridge Trail to Frozen Lake, an almost 3-mile round trip with an elevation gain of only 534 feet. Here's a couple of hikers ahead of me, and there's Mount Rainier to the left, still knocking my socks off with its remarkable size and beauty. Let's zoom in and take a look at some of those 28 glaciers on it. This is the scenery on the trail looking the opposite way of Mount Rainier. Finally, I got to Frozen Lake. To tell you the truth, I was a little disappointed in it. It looked more like an Iowa farm pond than a mountain lake. Here's a little wildlife on the trail, a marmot doing what marmots do. Now here's some real wildlife, a mountain goat way down in the valley. To the human eye, it was just a white speck. One last look at Mount Rainier from this trail, then it's off to my next destination for the day. Here's the start of the 7/10 of a mile hike to Little Tipsoo Lake. It's a beautiful lake, but it was the abundance of wildflowers that was so amazing. On the shore of Tipsoo Lake, halfway around Tipsu Lake, I looked over to see Mount Rainier. This is described as a great spot for a picture. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the cards for me that day. The clouds were gathering and the mountain was backlit. Next time, I'll show up early in the morning. After that, it was time to head back to the motel. But what a ride that turned out to be. The sun was there a second ago, and then before you knew it, the clouds dropped down and I was in another world. It was a little scary. Going over 20 miles an hour was really pushing your luck. That was the end of the day, and this is the end of the video.